Anthony Joshua, weeks after his big fight against Jake Paul, went to Nigeria to visit his family. He lands in Nigeria and goes into an SUV car with two of his friends, more specifically his coach and his personal trainers. Before they went off, Anthony Joshua's driver told Joshua to move from the front seat to the back seat. The reason why his driver wanted him to move seats was because Joshua is a big and tall guy, so he was blocking the rear view mirror. So Anthony Joshua switched seats and he moves from the front seat to the right to the back seat to the left. Anthony Joshua is now sitting on the left side of the vehicle while his two coaches and his friends are all sitting on the right side of the vehicle. The SUV starts moving, and within a couple of minutes, the driver starts driving really fast. And mind you, they're driving in probably one of the most busiest roads in Nigeria. Eventually, the SUV crashes and they bump into a truck that was parked. Fortunately, Anthony Joshua and his driver survived. But unfortunately, Anthony Joshua's coaches didn't survive the crash. The most messed up part about this situation is literally after Anthony Joshua experienced that car crash, the people of Nigeria are just surrounding, bombarding Anthony Joshua, recording him, taking pictures, screaming, talking, yapping up a storm. Like they can't even read a room for a second and realize that this guy just experienced his two friends dying in front of him. This whole situation eventually lands in court, and the driver that was involved in this situation has pleaded not guilty to 4 charges that were presented to him, including reckless driving. The driver didn't even have a driving license, and he says that the brakes weren't working, causing him to lose control over the vehicle and crash and bump into a car that was supposedly not supposed to be there. The driver's lawyer and his son have all said that this is all an accident and that the brakes truly were not working at the time. His son even says that his dad is not a reckless driver. At this point, Anthony Joshua is sent to the hospital. And what has been said so far from news articles is that Anthony Joshua has suffered minor injuries, which is a good thing, but the saddest and probably most uncomfortable part about this whole situation is the fact that Anthony Joshua's coach, friend, strength and conditioning coach, they both died right in front of him. And knowing that just before Anthony Joshua got into that SUV, his driver told him to switch seats. There was literally a point where Anthony Joshua was gonna drive on the right side of the vehicle, but his driver told him move to the left side to the back seat, because since Anthony Joshua is such a big and tall guy, the driver couldn't see his direction. If Anthony Joshua's driver didn't tell him to move seats, Anthony Joshua would have been dead, because it seems like the only people who have suffered were Anthony Joshua's friends, and they were both all on the right side of the vehicle, whereas Anthony Joshua's driver and Anthony Joshua, they didn't suffer anything major because they were on the left side of the vehicle. And keep in mind that this driver that Anthony Joshua had by his side, it wasn't just some random Uber driver that he paid for. Supposedly, this driver that caused this whole accident actually knew Anthony Joshua for quite some time and has been his driver for a while. What's even sadder about this whole catastrophe is literally Anthony Joshua, hours before this accident happened, he was playing ping pong with his friend Latif, one of the guys that died in this car crash, and it seems like they were having fun enjoying their vacation after the big fight against Jake Paul. Some people have said that Anthony Joshua escaped death, and he quite literally did. If his driver didn't tell him to move seats, Anthony Joshua would have been dead. The big speculation here for me is the driver's morals, because he claims that the brakes weren't working and he lost control over the vehicle. He's explaining to the people that it was just an accident, a freak accident, but at the same time, this guy didn't have any credentials. He didn't even have a proper license. But also at the same time, part of the reason why this accident was so brutal was the fact that they bumped into a truck that wasn't supposed to be there. Anthony Joshua's personal driver pleaded not guilty to the charges, and honestly, when I heard that, I was honestly mad. How is this murderer not gonna admit that this was all his fault? But when I think to myself, this is Anthony Joshua's driver. Like, he knew this guy. He's been knowing this guy before, for 3 years to be exact. You could find this on news articles. This driver wasn't just some random driver. This was Anthony Joshua's driver, his friend. And for the driver to say that the brakes weren't working really has me questioning his morality. Sure, maybe this was a freak accident. Maybe it wasn't the driver's fault. Maybe nobody's at fault here. But the fishy part of it all is the fact that this driver didn't have no credentials. This whole story is a sad one. Anthony Joshua, just after his big fight against Jake Paul, he has a nice little vacation with his friends. More specifically, his personal trainer and his strength and conditioning coach. Both of his friends die, and by luck, or by God, definitely God protected Joshua. Because there was at one point where he was on the right side of the vehicle, but his driver told him to move seats, and he moved to the left side of the vehicle. And just after that freak accident happened, everyone was just surrounding Anthony Joshua, trying trying to figure out what happened. Like, just imagine losing your friends in a car crash, and then the whole world's just putting their phones in front of your face. That's just disrespectful. But if we were to look at the bright side, at least Anthony Joshua has no serious injuries. And it has been said from the media that he just got out of the hospital and he's back to the UK. Even though this situation is sad, I feel like Anthony Joshua could get something positive and nice out of this situation. If we were to think just for a moment, whenever Anthony Joshua comes back from boxing and he does all these interviews and press conferences, I truly believe that the people, the community, the fan base of Anthony Joshua, the casuals who don't even know about boxing, but they watch Anthony Joshua's fight, they will all be cheering for him and support him 1000% of the way. I can't even imagine the walkout that he's gonna do after the whole accident. People are really gonna view this guy as the real life Superman, coming back after a traumatic accident. Then months later, he comes back to fight again, and we're gonna be able to see him pour all his blood, sweat, and tears and emotions into the ring. Even though I am sorry for Anthony Joshua and his friends for dying, this is just really a messed up situation as a whole. At least we know Anthony Joshua could get something out of this. This will just make Anthony Joshua a bigger star, and people will appreciate him more. Rip to Anthony Joshua's friend, Sinagami and Latif Oyodela. You're in a better place now, and Anthony Joshua will carry on your legacy. My name's Ahin Zamali, and I'm out. Peace.